Gombares.
That's it.
I know what thing also may live in Kuvares. May Sanjig Temba and Jivale and then Hagi choose and give a shit out Gombares. And the Dongagi Temba and Jivales.
So right now, we have to think about the fact that we have this human basis that is very rare and precious. The opportunity that we have to practice the Buddhist truth is here. The Buddhist teachings are present in the world. We have the sutra teachings, and then we also have the tantric teachings that we are able to access. And the tantric teachings are extremely rare to be able to have the opportunity to practice. So we should make sure that we take advantage of this human basis that we have that is so difficult to achieve and so easily lost. Okay. So now today we're looking at Nagarjuna's precious Garland, Uma Rinchen Chewa, and this text was written to a king, in a letter to a king from Master Nagarjuna, to explain how that king would be able to be a Buddhist himself, but then also have the kingdom be a Buddhist kingdom, be the kingdom's kind of social structure kind of set up based on Buddhist values. So Nagarjuna wrote this letter to the king and sometimes gave advice that seemed to be contradictory to what worldly thought would normally be. And Nagarjuna actually says to the king that even for you, it's hard to say difficult things to the people that you rule over. Imagine how difficult it is for me to say something to a king, but I must do so out of compassion. I must tell you these things that may contradict the way that you would normally live and normally rule out of compassion, because this is what will benefit you and others ultimately. So Nagarjuna wrote this letter, and in that letter, we find the entire path presented and the Madhyamika Prasangika view elucidated with negations to the other views of the non-Buddhists and the lower schools of the Vibhashika, the Great Exposition School, the Sautrantika school, the Sutra school, or the Chittamantran school, which is the mind-only school. And then below the Madhyamika Prasangika, which is called the Middle Way Consequence School, we have actually a middle way school called the Middle Way Autonomy School. And then one of those leans towards the Madhyamika Svatantric Ranjupa. I'm mixing up the Tibetan and the Sanskrit. Just give me one moment. So below the Middle Way Consequence School, Umi Ranjupa, you have the Ranjupa, the Madhyamika Svatantrika and the Madhyamika Yogacara. And these are the two autonomy schools. One leans towards the mind-only school, and the other autonomy school leans towards the Sutra school. But ultimately, the final view that is presented in Nagarjuna's text is the Middle Way Consequence view, which is the final view of emptiness and the highest view in the tenet systems. So this view is precisely presented by Nagarjuna in this text, and it is surrounded by the path that's needed to go through, that you saturate with emptiness as far as view in order to become a Buddha. So if one were to just read this text without any kind of formal instruction, it might seem difficult to figure out how one would go about practicing these teachings. All of the teachings are found within it or implicitly contained, but the order of practice is sometimes difficult to figure out. And that's why Rinpoche said it's important to understand the teachings for beings of three capacities. The Lam Rim. The Lam Rim as presented by Lama Tsongkhapa in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, that Rinpoche so blessed us and gave us a 10-year teaching on. So all of the foundations and the stages and the orders for the information that you will find in the precious Garland are contained within those Lam Rim teachings. The greatest text that explains those Lam Rim teachings is called the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, and by Lama Tsongkhapa. And I say greatest text, meaning in volume of information contained, not the best there ever was, meaning the greatest, the most massive amount of Lam Rim, which is, and that actual commentary, because it was written when it was 1300s, 1400s, bad with history, it's closer to the time of the Buddha. So when we read a lot of the other Tibetan commentaries on commentaries on commentaries, we don't find as much reference to the sutras. We don't find as many quotes from the sutras or from the Tanjira, the authentic Indian commentaries. So Lama Tsongkhapa's Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment not only elucidates the Lam Rim, but shows how the Lam Rim, the stages of the path, are all contained within the sutras, the pronouncements of Lord Buddha, and the authentic Indian commentaries. So what was taught in this? So Lord Atisha came to Tibet from India when there was some confusion about the teachings in Tibet around the 900s, I believe, and wrote what was called the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, and set up the teachings for beings of three capacities. Lord Atisha said all of Lord Buddha's teachings could fit into three categories: the teachings for beings of small, medium, and great capacity. And then he wrote a poem, a very short text about this. Text, I heard the text come through. He wrote a very short text or almost poem about these three categories. And then this text, the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment by Lama Tsongkhapa, elucidated it. So according to Atisha and according to Tsongkhapa, if one wishes to achieve rebirth in the higher realms of cyclic existence, the Buddha gave a set of teachings that would allow a practitioner to achieve those aims. Those were called the teachings for shared in common with beings of small capacity. And these were practices of going for refuge to the three jewels of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And in order to go for refuge to the three jewels, if we look at the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, there's an enormous section that goes over the excellent qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha and the enlightenment activities. And it shows how this basis of the Buddha is an appropriate basis to go for refuge to. Rinpoche shared a story with us over and over and over again. I've heard it over 100 times, and he hasn't recently told it. But I think it's important when we think about Buddhist refuge, because we just kind of go through these stages and we talk about small scope, medium scope, and great scope, and going for refuge seeming to be the smallest of all things to do. But then when we look at the Great Treatise on the Stage of the Path to Enlightenment, and we look at all of these categories, we see that there's an enormous amount of information for some reason about that topic. And the reason is that if we are going to put our life, this life, and all of our future lives into the hands of a being, we need to make sure that that being is capable of delivering us to showing us a way in order to get to the place we want to go. So if we no longer want to suffer, we have to find a being that appropriately can show us how not to suffer. And according to Buddhists, the Buddha is that being. And then why is the Buddha that being? That's the part that we need to study the most, because that's the foundation of our path, to believe that there is something that will allow us to be free from suffering. So Rinpoche always told this story of a dog running up, a vicious dog running up to a mother and a child, and the child running to the arms of his or her mother out of fear, just terrified of this dog, and then going to the mother, and then the mother able to get the dog and shoo the dog away. Now at that moment, the mother was an appropriate refuge for the child, because A, she has love for the child and wants to help the child, and B, has the ability to actually get rid of the dog, get rid of the thing that the child is afraid of. So in that case, that mother is the appropriate refuge for the child. But if you have a case where there's a deer and they have a baby deer, and the baby deer sees a tiger, runs to its mother for protection, that wasn't a good refuge to go to, because the tiger will kill the mother and the tiger will kill the baby. So in that case, that's not an appropriate refuge. So how do these two cases relate to Buddhist refuge? In the first case, the child went for refuge to the mother, and the mother had love and compassion for the child, so wanted to help, and the ability to get rid of the dog. So that's like a Buddhist who wishes to be free from suffering going for refuge to the Buddha, because the Buddha is capable. The Buddha understands how to go from being an ordinary being full of the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience to the state that he or she, in the case of Shakyamuni, he is abiding in. So the Buddha, in our case, is an appropriate refuge to go to, because the Buddha has love and compassion, cares for us, and has the ability to show us how to be free from suffering. Whereas if we go for refuge to worldly things, we go for refuge to money, we go for refuge to views that do not have the wisdom realizing emptiness, and we go to teachers that do not possess that view, and we follow those practices, those monies, those worldly things won't be able to end our suffering, because they don't get at what the root is that causes our suffering. The reason we suffer is because of ignorance. Our ignorance is what? It's driven by this grasping at things as being truly established, as us and them, as having true establishment. And unless the basis of refuge shows us how to get rid of that, what causes all of our suffering isn't being negated. And if what causes all of our suffering isn't being abandoned or negated, then it will just happen again. So if our aim is to be free from suffering, we need to go put our spiritual kind of faith in something that actually will work. So all of the Buddhist texts are basically explaining why that is and proving that that is true. And so the causes of going for refuge are fear and faith. So fear of what? Fear of the lower realms of cyclic existence, and faith that the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha have the ability to free us from that state of suffering that we fear. So in the case of the dog and the child's scared, runs to the mother, has fear, and has faith that the mother will protect him or her, and the mother can. So it was a good thing to go for refuge too. In our case, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are the only bases where we find the presentation of the negation of true self, the negation of true establishment and inherent existence. And that negation is what allows for cessation, coupled with virtue and the rest of the path. But without that wisdom, it's not possible to achieve the cessation of our negativities. So it's important to understand that that's why the Buddha is the appropriate refuge. And then the Buddha said, well, not only wisdom, you need to have method and wisdom, but it says in the beginning of this text, among faith and wisdom, wisdom is chief, faith being its prerequisite. So wisdom's chief, wisdom's the king, but faith is its prerequisite. So we have to learn that there is something we can have faith in order to really start to study and believe that we need to rip through volumes and volumes and volumes of texts that all seem to say the same thing, but they don't, because I'm pretty intelligent and I read that one sentence about things dependently originate so they're not truly established, and then I open up the middle of a text on emptiness and it makes no sense. So there's something more to it than that little sentence that seems so easy. So the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity show one how to go out of the lower realms of cyclic existence. Cyclic existence is the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realm in the lower, and the human, demigod, and God's realm in the higher realms. Shows us how to get out of the lower realms. So going for refuge to the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, engaging in ethical behavior that abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities, the 10 non-virtuous activities of killing, the 3 of the body of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct, the 4 of the speech of lying, harsh words, divisive speech, and gossip, and the 3 of the mind, covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong view. So we engage in ethical behavior that abandons those things and admit when we engage in negativity. If we do that, the Buddha said, we're golden, we're free from the lower realms. But a being who wants to be free from all of the realms can't do that with just the small scope. So he or she needs to practice the small scope and combine it with something else. So the first category are called the teachings shared in common with beings of small capacity. Next category are called the teachings shared in common with beings of medium capacity. These medium capacity teachings are for beings who wish to achieve liberation for themselves, not complete Buddhahood, but liberation. The afflictive obstructions that we have, which are driven by the grasping at true establishment, can be gotten rid of, according to the Buddha, by practicing the 3 highest higher trainings of ethics, concentration, and wisdom, and coupling them with the small scope. This would allow one to be in nirvana with a nirvana which is an abiding nirvana. That abiding nirvana disallows that practitioner from helping all sentient beings because he or she still has obstructions to omniscience. The practitioner that wants to get rid of that too is the one who wants to be a Buddha. And that Buddhahood is caused by practicing the small scope and the medium scope, and then coupling that with the generation of the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and then practicing the 6 perfections. The Buddha stated that if you do that, you'll become a Buddha. And there's 2 categories of that great scope, Sutra and Tantra, the perfection vehicle and the resultant vehicle. The resultant vehicle being very swift, but very, very difficult, very rare for a practitioner to be able to practice it in its entirety, and that practice of Tantra needs that foundation of that first kind of step of bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to enlightenment. Because one can't enter a mandala without being a bodhisattva. Really, we can pretend we are, but it's in the Sangha's text. We don't enter the mandala till we're bodhisattva. So we don't do Tantra till we're not Tantraing unless we're bodhisattvas. We're doing facsimiles of Tantra and practicing and getting imprints, but we aren't really tantric yogis or whatever, tantrists. Like we're not Mahayanists. We have affinity for the Mahayana, but the door to the Mahayana is bodhicitta. So just like the door to the Mahayana is bodhicitta, bodhicitta is what makes Tantra work too. That all being said, those are the stages that the Lama Tsongkhapa and Atisha and all of these great masters said were necessary to go through in order to become enlightened. And the Buddha taught them in his pronouncements. And the Indian commentators commented on in the 213 Indian commentaries. But those would be very difficult for us to understand and put in order. Lama Tsongkhapa and Atisha and all of these great beings have been so kind to us to show us how to practice this stuff. Dikson, Sumcho Sanchi.
Mazidi Dijan Sheba, Mazibi Dibasa, the Jan Study and of the Jena, Chabatel, Tabaniji,
Lesser.
Dani Yamba Tadani, Dani Chambu, Hiji, Hiji,
okay, touche.
Hiji, Niji, Shina, Shanga Shangashi, Nyachun Zuna, Dawan Zusa, and Nima Jijin China, Shangashi, and Nyachun Zun to the Garoma, Dangures, Dawan Zu, Hamanajan, Jeriba,
Lesser.
Gaya, Madu, Peban Zusa. That's the one by my deacons to lay out in the Pembachi Wars.
That's so.
China Kala, dancing met, Tele, Duma, Mebaches, Chula Galaya, Jimatan, Sam Mebaina, Tele Dumba, Mebach, Dumi, Pamiga was Shomores,
That's
Dumba, Mai, Telena, Jumicheva Debazus, Dumba Maiva Telena, Jumicheva Debazures, John Jesse Matawa, Tese Tuyan, Tenda, Tede Kendan, Chudan Zadan, Tongadan, Pemba Dembe, the watches, Tongan Matanga Dudula, Madame Bato, Tesi Baton de Kendan, Tata Kendan, Chudan Zadan, Chuja Saradan, Tonga Tegures, Meta Dembe, the watches,
Nama de Chisan, Juporo,
Ya,
Disa.
Dime Baye. Dime Baye, Potala, Neme Potala, Nodoron, Chandutar, Trison, Nodo, Moron, Nodoron, Sages.
Okay, Disa. Kanga de Juporo, Shiloka.
Neji Jina, Shangashi, Yajon Dong, Tatamba to Yamashina, and Maton Maton. Hama,
The dancer, the Ratan.
Radan Soba, Jibime, Radan Soba, Jibime, Jella Dawan, Susan Matina,
That's it.
the level, Shejina, Masu Neba, Majiba, Yuli Teba, Tatuja, Masu Neba Majiba, Kuluman Batuja Uris,
That's it.
Longa Yuba, Yukuyan, Longa Yuba Yukuyan, Shamanta Chenrezig, Tatu Payu, Tendempal, Chudan Tumbi, Tendo Chis, Chudan, Chudan Tumbi, Traja Ures,
That's it.
Yendela Daniji, Rajin, Kude, Zenduta, Jachen Jesu, Tunjusin, Hamanala, Cherries, Jabu, Junshin, Zudi, Jabu, Junshin, Zudi, Kude Matu, Jeju.
Let's go. Not turn me shade up. Hold on. His glasses. Trying to move the book closer and closer. We have wisdom. Okay.
Jabu, Junshin, Zudi, Kude Matu, Jeju. A Shinjugan down, Shinjugan, the Telecalor, never tell Ures,
That's out.
Jeju, Rajin Devo, Chedamba, Jimbaja Chapatambaina, Devoshibun Ures, Meb Bonji, Shana, Tambajurus, and Casa Rajin, Jimba Chapatambaina, Bong Shawana, Tambayun Ures, Tambajuro. Jabuton Yung Atujan, Jedan Demba, Denda, Jedan Dena Gadjute, Sumi, Lane, Shantube, Shakan Yin, Shakan Yilla, Shaka Yilla, Tujin, Latuji, Tatari B, Jinana, Treatise, Tomajoris. What the Jeba in the Chono Jesse Tammy was.
And Khensur Gagare, Khensur Daken Gagare.
River Mai, Majusi, River Mai Maju, Chuma in chosen Joro, Chuma imitating choosing on Chanagres.
That's so.
Jesse Jitan Parune, Pente, Majun, Hamanjoro. Treaty Nebi, Seleto, Chumi, Treaty, Jimenez, Chuma Image in the Rio Mares.
There we go. So
she's one, Jesse, doing it, Suchi, Jubata, Chene, Ruba Manjoa, Jabata, Nathan, what the Jabu, what the Zimbatan, Salaja was. So she's one, Jesse, Suchi, Jubata, Jabu in Najin Juro, Jabu Chene, Jejurua, Chene Jejurua, the top of the Nathan Juice, the Tabinesu to the Salaja was.
that's it.
Lenjipai Sato Jan, Lenjila Sato Jan, Koloju, the one, Le Jengatan, Sambate, Deni Kona, 7 2. Lenjipai, Lenjila Tuba, 2 Jan, Koloju, the one, Koloju Jabi, the one, Le Jengatan, Saint-Jité, Teni Kona, 7 2. Le Jitoa, the one, doing Shana, Jubatan, Saint-Jité, Rangé, Tobi, Sheba, Kona say, Tassan, Karina Kangalo, Tobi Tatan Konares, Yutun Tobi Tatan Chasagro. Jiden Dawa, Dobakun, Jiden de Dobakun, doing Shana, Jutan, Totan, Taser, Tatum to Tomatos, what the Lakisha to do to another college and to another Maris. Lintan, Yutan, Netan, Ching, Shutan, Tantan, Kunatan, Machazatun, Lambola, Permet, Cheja, Rese, Kansakanla, Saint Don, Tetsiti, Deshita. Devil you want to Kangala would double is a tabaris. Nama Hila, Majiba, there's a turn to Domini, Mela Sobe, Ombunge, Yuna, Deji, Kangisher, Soba Maji teacher. There's a teller, the woman. Can't say you know, can't.
The dancer, Jikden, David.
Jiden do Dubagus. Jiden with that do Duba. Sayatwala for the Zilwa. The Geshe choose not. The next go to be that is. Total, ye teacher. They don't do tomatoes.
The dancer, links. Which one were we on, Lozan? I was looking English, Tibetan, and I just mixed him up. 350, I thought, okay. The Miguel Sopa. Gogel me. Yeah. The. Thank you.
The Kangisher. Toba Maji teacher. That's the teller the woman.
The Kali Kapaldu.
Mila Subu Ombunge. Yungan Jeje. me now not get result da terror zingo yungan zinji. Jusen Garisna, Kankisher, Toba Maji Tisher, that's the Tella Dua man. Dua Yungumaris, Kansa Yuna, Kanta Kan, Abu Kanki Shekuba, the Lame, Hama me, Kansha Tessa, Temeni, Abu Yine, Minjura, Debi Yuji, Nabala, Yiji Mine, Toba Jen, Do Nyanto, Lombarishe. Then Ombo Chicken, Twenty Shebe, Kayaba, Young Deme, Padume, Toyan Deme, Toyan Deme, Padume, Cheta Pentam, Matala, Cheta Patam Matala, then a Bene, John Shis, Pamala then a Bogucheva, example. The made on Zutene, Nabasho, made the Zula dinner, Pamala then a Bogucheva, Naji made the Zula dinner, Nashi Childers, Nashi John Shi. Yun Deta, Mauna, Ombutanche, Temela, Tenileta, Demesher, other Tether, Edeme.
I see.
Jeta make it Trubaye, Game Kolo, Zejeba, Zin Obanajene, Teti Yuta, Zimbashes. Me Zula, Zodon Obaladena, and the Misha using this. Obanata, order Nam. Joanna Gerardin, Joan Sosu Temebe, that turned to Tomato. Joan Sosu Tatena, Peshin Meba, Metajuro. Duna Teni Manjute, Hamalaya Tatake,
That's good. That's good.
Hamalaya Tatake, that Jonah. Nani son, deme bene, deme, duba deme, nijishir, zojan dendo, deme do. Nashi sotan, dushi nadan, taji do, susu teni, deme shir, tambi dendo, deme do. Jeta dunga, shi la, dendo dewa, najeshi. Tejin denju, Juan la, dunga toyang, najeshi. Teta ngoni meshir, dada treba siba dang, dunga treba siba bon, dosha bon vorisen. Teshi teta, tuan chu, toni tosona kwal chu res, kanki tuan, par chen she, tanya duna, san ju do, su tonga sena san tonga res, kan sombo duna san zang mos, san jong meba, san menjong, san jong meba san yong ma res,
Less so.
dame energy mendo do, teta yangda, chi do, droa dame, shinene, jume ban me do, neme leme, nyanganda.
That's okay. That's good. ANGK. Okay. All right. So I apologize if I mixed any of the pages up last week. So I had Rinpoche go back and just go over things that I think that I might have mixed up. And I know that we're going over something more than once, so just have patience with me as a translator. Thank you. Okay. O King, so stanza 331 is where we are going to start. Rinpoche gave commentary throughout. I'm going to do my best to not miss any of it. O King, through compassion, you should always generate just an attitude of altruism, even for all of those embodied beings who have committed awful deeds. Especially generate compassion for those whose ill deeds are horrible. The murderers, those of fallen nature, are receptacles of compassion from those whose nature is magnanimous. So it's saying here to the king that make sure that you generate compassion for even those who've done horrible things. Those people who have compassion for those are the people who have the great level of compassion. Because those are beings that it's most difficult to have compassion for. Those whose ill deeds are horrible, the murderers, those of fallen nature, are receptacles of compassion from those whose nature is magnanimous. Free the weaker prisoners after a day or 5 days. Do not think the others are not freed under any conditions. So always have the idea of freeing the prisoners in your mind, if you can safely do so. For each one whom you do not think to free, you will lose the layperson's vow. So it's parmi gewa. It's almost parent's virtue. So it's this virtue, that's existent if you've decided, like we spoke about last week, this ever-present, if you have this ever-present idea to help others, this virtue of generosity, or you think that you're going to be nice to everyone. So you're always having this almost like a vow. It's like a vow that you constantly have. The other example of negativity is a butcher who kills for a living, constantly creates the non-virtue of killing. So because their mind state is that of killing all of the time. So it's something to that effect. This parmi gewa cha. So, and when it's the same name actually. When you go, the thing that I had when I put robes on, it's parmi gewa dumba. It's this, you don't have vows yet, but you cut your hair, you change your name, and you wear robes before you take a novice ordination. Most of the little monks running around in the monastery don't have novice ordination yet. A lot of them have what's called parmi gewa dumba. And this name, parmi, is the same one that's in here for layperson. So we can investigate this parmi gewa. Dondagaru, pama, parent. Pama, pamatso. Pama, paba ama, parmi gewa. Paba ama, gewa. Pabi. So it's virtue, not non-virtue, and not neutral. Right? That's what he said. So it's a virtue, parmi gewa, but parma, it's parent, right? No, it's not in the text. I'm sorry. It's the when they give the. I see. So the pa doesn't have a parent in it. I see. I see. So it's transitional. Okay. We'll look further later. I'm not questioning it. I remember when I took that ordination, we were trying to decipher what that was supposed to be called. And that's where we landed, but that doesn't mean we landed anywhere near right, because we land not near right regularly, and I'm okay with that. I remember real quickly, I was at the first the conference for Buddhist centers in the US. I don't think it was Galupa, it was the first conference. Dalai Lama was there. And we all met as translators. I barely was, I barely knew anything. And Glenn Mullen said something that changed my life as a translator. He said, no matter how good you are right now, we don't have a good lexicon. We really don't. So no matter what you do or how great you think you are, in 50 years, they're going to say what you did was garbage. So just realize that what you're doing will be considered garbage, and it'll maybe help you with your ego. And it has stuck with me like rice to a wall, that, okay, you can do your best. Basically, he said, Lamas walk in, I'll share this. Lamas walk in to bells and offerings and all this different stuff. And the translator walks into, sit over there, and you have a dictionary. That's your friend. And the dictionary is not really right either, because we don't have a lexicon. So he's like, that's where you're at. And he's like, and that's where you should be at, because you haven't done what these monsters have done to get where they've gotten as holy beings. You just learned a few words and they're not even really right yet. So it just helps keep me in check. Anyway, for whom you don't, as long as prisoners are not freed, they should be made comfortable with barbers, baths, food, drink, medicine, and clothing. Just as deficient children are punished out of a wish to make them competent, so punishment should be carried out with compassion, not through hatred nor desire for wealth. Once you have analyzed thoroughly, recognize the angry murderers, have them banished without killing or tormenting them. So it's saying that any type of jailing should be for rehabilitation purposes. And if there are those who can't be rehabilitated, don't kill them, but put them somewhere they'll be safe to not die, but won't hurt anyone else. So whatever that would mean for each individual case, that's what the king would have to figure out. How to not harm them or others and not kill them, and keep them safe and others safe, but not in jail. So that's a tall order to ask. In order to maintain control, oversee all the country through the eyes of agents, always conscientious and mindful, do what accords with the practices, continually honor in an exalted way those who are foundations of good qualities with gifts, respect, and service, likewise honor all the rest. The birds of the populace will alight upon the royal tree, providing the shade of patience, flourishing flowers of respect, and large fruits of resplendent giving. Rinpoche said that this is, if you're generous, you will have very, very large results and very good fruits. And something about the builder here, but we went over it quickly. The sheens, we'll just move on. Who am I to? You're on Delpa Dansong Jason. Jason. The Donagari. Jelpo. Jelpi. The Rinpoche. Jelpi.
Junshi Treatise. Jabok Shin Jokin Manduro. Shin Tree Cut.
Okay.
Treatise. Kuti Matu Jejuis.
So the tree.
Shin.
Okay, so it has something to do with someone who's maybe cutting a tree. Rinpoche said maybe to build things, or just make sure you're generous to them, and that you're generous. That just basically the royal tree providing the shade of patience. So Rinpoche said that it's really about providing recompense or monies and things for those who are building, and that by doing so, it will generate, through generosity comes the enjoyment. So it will generate the enjoyments. Generosity will. Monarchs whose nature is generosity are liked if they are strong, like a sweet hardened outside with cardamom pepper. So strong and compassionate. So able to make tough decisions. If you analyze with reason, thus your governance will not degenerate. It will be without principle, nor become unreligious, but be religious. So if you are not, Rinpoche is saying, analyze with reason, thus, if you run the kingdom in this way and analyze things in this way with these principles, you will have a religious kingdom. It won't be a non-religious kingdom. And this word religious is chu, so you can say a dharma kingdom, a not. So if you act like this, you will have a kingdom that is a dharma kingdom, a religious kingdom. You did not bring your dominion with you from your former life, nor will you take it to the next, since it was gained through religious practice. It would be wrong to act against the practices. O king, exert yourself to avert a sequence of miserable supplies for the realm through misuse of royal resources. O king, exert yourself to increase the succession of the dominion's resources through proper use of royal resources. Although universal monarchs rule over the 4 continents, their pleasures are regarded as only 2, the physical and mental. Physical feelings of pleasure are only a lessening of pain. Mental pleasures are made of thought, created only by conceptuality. So all of these experiences that we have are all of these pleasures and mental experiences and things that we observe and give us pleasure are all created by the mind, are all created by this conceptuality that designates things. All of the wealth of worldly pleasures are just a lessening of suffering, or are only creations of thought, hence they are in fact not meaningful. So the Buddha stated, the Buddha was asked, what creates the three realms of suffering? And the Buddha stated, a mind. And so then the mind-only school took that and ran with it and said that all things are mind. But the actual meaning of that is that the mind's conception creates a name in dependence upon the I consciousness and the I sense power and the form itself, we'll say, if we're using I. So there is a form, there's a sense power that's powering this I consciousness. And then this apprehension takes place of the object, and then the mind then discerns it and names it. But there is no object that's named whatever it's named. So say it's car, we'll use car. So there's a car over there. It takes the car, it takes a sense power powering the sense consciousness to grab the car, if you will, to apprehend it, and then it takes the mental consciousness to name it. So the nominal designation then takes place from the mind. And then, of course, our karma is what is creating kind of firing our mind's interpretation of it, if you will. That's why a hungry ghost sees pasta, we see water, and a God sees nectar. And I asked Rinpoche, well, which one is it? He said, it's all of them, a little of each. And I said, what does it mean, a little of each? And he said, well, for it's a little bit enough for a hungry ghost's karma to grab onto it and see pus. It's a little bit enough for a human's karma to grab onto it and see water, and a God to see nectar. But which is it? Well, it's none of them. So that's where I ended up with that, with Rinpoche. So it's none of them. It's not truly established. And because it's not truly established, it has the potential to be those things. But it's not like something can turn into something completely different. And that's where the big debate has to take place, where the hungry ghost can't see a car and think it's water, can he? Anyway, we'll leave it there, but you know. So all the wealth of worldly pleasures are only creations of thought, hence they are in fact not meaningful. So it's our mind creating our experience all of the time. Our mind isn't creating the stuff out there, it's just interpreting the stuff out there. Ngatsu the chiran de sompere, the ngatsu the dusun, the dume kan, zu kan, zume kan, garizu san. Sensus, then sem, the sensampezu, the dawa yomare, minki ta, the miki wombo, the miki sheba, the zula dene, the ichi nampa sheba, minki tagdu. Okay, all right, I'm just checking what I said and I was explaining to him where we are in the text and what I was saying. And he already said all of that, by the way, too, in the midst of it. Just one by one, there is enjoyment of continents, countries, towns, homes, conveyances, seats, clothing, beds, food, drink, elephants, horses, and women. When the mind has any one of these as its object, due to it, there is said to be pleasure. But since at the time no attention is paid to the others are not then in fact meaningful causes of pleasure. Where did he end? Ended somewhere. So here, when all five senses, eye and so forth, simultaneously apprehend their objects, a thought of pleasures does not refer to all of them. Therefore, at the time, they do not all give pleasure. So when there's an object of apprehension, for instance, of the eye consciousness, it's being powered, as Rinpoche said, by an eye sense power, the eye consciousness, the form itself, and then there's an observation. At that time, there's no other assertion of the other sense powers, the other four sense powers, or the other objects of observation of those sense powers or those sense consciousnesses, because mind can only observe one thing at a time. So those other things don't become of any meaning at that moment, because there's only at that moment the observation of that one thing that's just in a making, is made up by the mind. So it's saying the five senses of the eye consciousness, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, sense, and then mental consciousness. The five senses are the six consciousnesses without the eye consciousness, basically. And then the sense power is the eye sense power, ear sense power, nose sense power, tongue sense power, body sense power, body. What did I miss? Eye, ear, tactile, eye, ear, nose, tongue. Oh, I got them. Body, sense powers, and then the visual forms that they apprehend, such as the eye consciousness apprehends form, the ear consciousness apprehends sound, the nose consciousness apprehends odor, tongue consciousness apprehends taste, the feeling or tactile consciousness apprehends tangible objects themselves. So all of that's going on in order for there to be apprehension of an object. And only one of those things, categories of apprehension, can be going on at a time, because the mind can only nominally designate one thing at a time, basically. At the end of the day, that's what it means. The mind can only name one thing at a time. So the mind apprehends an image. The mind apprehends an image of past object which has been apprehended by the senses and imagines and fancies it to be pleasurable. So there's an image that's presented that has in the past been happy to you, so it presents, one imagines that it's an object of pleasure. Also the one sense which is here in the world is said, no one object is meaningless without an object, and the object also is meaningless without it. So it's showing the interdependence between object and apprehender, and the interdependence between, if there can't be apprehension if there's no object. If there's, there can't be an apprehension of an object if there's no object. There can't be an object apprehended if there's no apprehender. So also the one sense which here in the world is said to know one object is meaningless without an object, and the object also is meaningless without it. Just as a child is said to be born in dependence on a father and mother, so a visual consciousness is said to arise in dependence on an eye, sense, and a form. So in order for a visual, eye consciousness to apprehend, it has to be powered by a sense power, eye sense power, and then there has to be a form for it to apprehend. So for that apprehension to take place, there has to be power and form to apprehend. Past and future objects in the senses are meaningless. So too are present objects, since they are not distinct from these two. Just as due to the error, the eye perceives a whirling firebrand as a wheel, so the senses apprehend present objects as if they are real, as if there's some single substantial thing happening when it's merely a collection of parts serving as a suitable basis of designation for a name that's being generated, because in the case of a form, an eye consciousness has been powered by an eye sense power to apprehend a form that then is interpreted by the mental consciousness, and then based on the karma interprets it as wonderful or not, attractive or not, and then labels it, or neutral, I think it can be, neutral, and labels it. But there is no thing that's been labeled that inherently exists as it's labeled from its own side, without that entire process that just took place in order to bring it into what we call, there's a car. So all of that, but it looks like there's a car there, just like when you spin if you have a torch and you spin it around, it looks like a circle. There's no circle there, it's just someone spinning a torch, but it looks like a circle. That's the same thing as a car. It looks like there's a car right there, but there's a whole bunch going on, spinning and turning in order for that to be apprehended. Vishere Yapudu Rinpoche. The senses and their objects are regarded as being composed of the elements. Since the elements are meaningless individually, these also are meaningless. In fact, if the elements each are different, it follows that there could be fire without fuel. If mixed, they would be characterless. Such is also to be ascertained about the other elements. I think we end here. Because the elements are thus meaningless in both the ways, so too is a composite. Because a composite is meaningless, so too are forms meaningless, in fact. So when it says meaningless, it means it doesn't have that inherent existence. It doesn't have meaning, doesn't substantially exist. It can't be found from its own side without the interdependence of the parts and so forth. In this case that we're talking about. Okay, Trio Danlenja.
Okay.
Yes, Coleman. Okay, so I'll read, I have to say the questions you say so people know because they can't hear them. Okay, yes.
Okay. My question is, can compassion only be truly cultivated once you realize emptiness or interdependence?
Ninji, the Doni Dopi Sherap Mena, Ninji J Tugudu. Can I have a little ice water, hun, for Rinpoche? Doni Dopi Sherap Mena, Ninji J Tugudu. The Doni Dawa, the Kangash Mashina, Ninji J Tugudu. Okay, so no, it's not necessary to have the wisdom realizing emptiness or the view of emptiness in order to generate compassion. In the Great Exposition School, you find compassion.
It's like caring for others.
The wish for others to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So when you think of it as one person, that'd be compassion. When you think of all sentient beings, that's great compassion. That's why the word great is there. And that's why the word great is in the great vehicle, because of the vastness of the scope. It isn't because we're better than you, it's because of the vastness of the scope, the vastness of the compassion. Somewhat.
Yeah. Okay, I understand.
I would debate unlimited.
Right.
There are a limit to sentient beings, but they use that word to say so many we can't imagine. Right. But they can be counted because Buddha knows when each one can be enlightened. That's another time, but it'd be fun to talk about a lot for like 5 hours straight. Yes.
Okay, so my question has to do with understanding the relationship between the stream of consciousness and the form of the world around you.
Okay.
So it is taught that the consciousness stream does go from lifetime to lifetime, but that it also does not degenerate because it is beginningless and it is endless.
Fact.
The other side of it is, though, that form is constantly degenerative. It goes away and it dissipates in its energy potential. So the sun is a source or the source of energy for the planet, but the sun will also die. So things degenerate and degenerate and degenerate in form, but in consciousness, there is no degeneration. So is it the case that in the future, the formal world will be completely degenerated?
Different world.
What's that?
It'll be a different world.
It'll be a different world?
We were talking about stars last night out on the porch.
Yeah.
With Rinpoche, and he was saying, what do you think they are? He said, first he asked, what do you think they are? He said, well, science says they're burned up planets that burned up a long time ago, and because they're so far away, they're just getting to us to see the fire now, or something, right? Is that what we told him? Yeah. So that was the short story about what the stars are. He said, well, we think that they're where the gods live. They're houses of the gods. So be willing to be open to the idea that what we think may not be what it really is. There may be other planets where beings are living. Before this world, there were human beings on another place. Before however science says there was this. If beginningless, there weren't human beings only when science says the planet formed. So Buddhism believes in other worlds. So Rinpoche, the konditriso. Ngatsu sheba, jewa tumo mepa. Dene the ngatsu sheba jema kagamare, dakpar yure sanje. Ngatsu the sanje jena, ngatsu sheba chipa. Sheba tanda, sheba ngama, sheba jema, sheba chipa. The loop, the rik chipa. Dene kon triwa the zu. Dakpar yomare, the ngatsu zambaling, ngama yomare, the earth, ngama yomare, jema the chikshena yomare, the sen ripa kelen, ngatsu nima, jema the sagare, mepa chagare, the nima, mepa chana, the ngatsu earth, mepa chana, ngatsu sheba, the mi luden the le yuna kaba jogurebe. I think that's a good way to ask it. So I asked it like this. I said, so the consciousness that we had before, the consciousness that we have currently is a continuum. And the one that we will have in the future is a continuum. The consciousness is the same continuum that we'll have when we are a Buddha. It'll just be a uncontaminated one, if you will. So that is a continuation. So I said to him, that will continue. What happens? Science says that the earth wasn't before. So where were humans then? And science says the earth will at some point end and that the sun will end. So what does that mean? Where were they and where will they be? He said, on another place. Another Jikden, another world. I guess you could say world. Jikden is world. Jikden, yeah, worldly being. Yeah, Jikdenba. That's me. I'm Jikdenba Jopo. Okay, any more? Yes.
Millions of people karmic actions through throughout time. It's not kind of an amalgamation of all of our karma together.
Yes.
So how does general actions like generosity change? What's the difference between that and an antidote to previous selfishness, let's say? So if I want to eliminate previous selfishness, or individual selfish acts, versus, like what is generosity today as a future resulting in enjoyments? But how do I use that specifically as an antidote to previous self?
Great question. Because results are concordant with their causes. So you have previous actions that you've done that are making you become selfish, or you're saying like, well, that are making you act out in selfish ways, or that are making you, actually it would make you, if you look at the results, we'll say, well, we're gonna just use one example the whole time, just for ease of example. So my mind can just cling to one thing and work around it. And then I'm gonna get involved with Rinpoche, but I just wanna sort through and make sure that we're at what makes sense. So the question is so if you engage in an antidote, which would seem to be, say, miserliness. So the antidote to miserliness would be generosity. To greed or something would be generosity. That would be the opposite. So we always have these opposites of it, and that's the virtue. So the opposite of killing would be abstention from killing, and that's the virtue. The killing is the non-virtue. So the miserliness is the non-virtue, and then generosity would be the antidote. So how do you then take that virtue that is generosity you're currently engaging in and then use it as an antidote to specific miserliness you did before so that you're not a miser in the future? Right? Did I get it? Is that it? Okay. Then ngatsu jewa tumo mepa, ngatsu dipa migewa dan gewa sason, then ngatsu sheba the migewa dan ge dan mige le mambo yure. Dene ngatsu tanda, then ngatsu shiba, then ngatsu kamba, then ngatsu de kanga dana, the ngatsu de kanga ngatsu le no le je, then the ngatsu dewa le the gewa le, the dugya the migele, then kon de lason, then ngama ngatsu sena, the jimba sena nepo, jimba dan, you know that sena nepo got it. Okay, so yeah, so sena nyepo jimba. The ngatsu jewa ngama jewa tuma mepa ngatsu sena mambo yure. The jewa de jimba dana ngatsu de gewa sagadu yine the ngatsu jewa tuma mepa ngama sena deepa pang kandre. Good so son. The jewa ngama ngatsu sena sason. Sena tsokson. Then ngatsu the sena pacha yure. Then ngatsu the pacha daguna. The jimba donigon. Then the ngama nga the the sena mambo the sason dene the nga jutsen nga the gewasa yabudwe
Shimbatana Pentur, two 21 days.
leso dene the nga the tanda the nga jimba dana this the golung ke chambudwe the nga the gewasa gangen sena jewa ngama nga sena mambo chason the deepa dago the sano dang yabudwe. Okay. The ngatsu the jimba mambo dana the ngatsu jewa ngama sena pantudwe. Nu. Doni dopi shera doni mena sena pantudwe. Okay, so harm it, but not okay. So so you've had miserliness that is engaged, that miserliness has caused results since beginningless time, if you will. So if you engage in miserliness, it says the result will be that you're poor. So this is why I wanted to stick with one topic. So you engage in miserliness, for instance, the result will be that you're poor. So you could be rich, right, and engaging in generosity, but not be miserly in this life at all. So we can see how, you know, you might not need an antidote to miserliness in this life if you're not a miser, but you should still engage in generosity. So there's a lot of very generous people that are not misers or don't need to fix that part of their life. So what's going on there? So when you engage in generosity, it harms your previous, doesn't take it away. It harms your previous miserliness that you had, the things that you did out of miserliness that made imprints. So just the miserliness itself is a root that kind of causes action. So the imprints that are made are from karma or from action, driven by that, you know, kind of like sprinkled with the driven by the miserliness, driven by grasping at true establishment. So when you engage in generosity, generosity is an antidote to miserliness, as you would say things like anger's antidote is love, attachment's antidote is meditation on ugliness, etc., etc. There's all these antidotes and so forth. So we would say the antidote to miserliness is generosity. But generosity can purify, but not completely purify, just kind of put a dent in your previous actions of miserliness. And Rinpoche is saying can harm it. And if you can think while you're engaging in generosity, I'm engaging in generosity in order to purify my previous deeds caused by miserliness, then that is very good. And then that harms it, really is directed at harming it directly. But what's necessary to eradicate it is the meditation on emptiness. One has to realize the emptiness in order to get rid of that grasping. So to get rid of the miserliness that causes the greedy actions, one has to have the wisdom realizing emptiness. So that then is what ultimately will purify that finishing thing that the virtue didn't harm enough. Does that make sense?
Give Rinpoche a drink.
Rinpoche.
Right here, the drink.
Oh.
Thank you.
Chuchamo. Gets very sleepy when it gets hot. It's prime sleeping time now too. Yes.
I have now recently the opportunity.
Oh, I didn't ask the question. I think I did enough though. Okay, remind me I have to ask the question. I'm sorry, people watching. Go ahead.
I had the recent opportunity to teach beginning meditation to people dealing with addiction.
Okay.
So the first question would be, what would Rinpoche say would be a general advice for people who are dealing with addiction?
Yeah.
And then my second question would be, what would be a helpful purification practice, particularly for those who may not necessarily be interested or open to Buddhist practice, but something that they could potentially do to, you know, purify themselves from negativity, from past experience, past karma, things like that.
Okay, so this gentleman, Dan, is working with people with addiction and teaching meditation and wants to know if they're not Buddhist or people in general who aren't Buddhist, what would be a good introductory meditation to help them with addiction? We all are addicted. We all are grasping at cyclic existence and grasping at ourselves in some form or another. I personally have been through what would be called addiction. But then when I start to analyze everyone around me, and when I actually suffered greatly from it and called Rinpoche and many, many years ago, I said, I'm so ashamed at this addiction. I'm so ashamed at what I've been through. And he said, stop being an egomaniac. Everyone in the Dharma Center, everyone in Dalai Lama's teachings that isn't enlightened is grasping at something, is engaging in the 10 non-virtues. They just have their own pleasant mix of them. So for you to think that you did something so bad that I wouldn't love you anymore is just your ego. So that was one of the most important conversations we ever had. And I really didn't know if I was going to be able to translate anymore. It was a very short break. Adrian knows what I'm talking about. It was 15, I don't know, a lot of years ago. And yeah, so let's start there. Let's start there. What's the antidote? What's whatever the Buddha taught everyone first. And Rinpoche is a Buddhist teacher, so how to non-Buddhist is tough. We've been over this a lot over the years. Like, what do I say at my job to try to like help everyone? Everyone. Well, he doesn't know who they are. You don't know who they are. So we have to really be very gentle and tread lightly. I was a counselor and taught meditation. Tread very lightly. We had more restraints the day after classes of meditation than any other time. It turned out to be positive, but be very, very careful. As a rule, more restraints. We had to have more staff the day after we did any kind of reflective meditation. So make sure somebody's in the 12 steps. There's the 11th step is at the end. So be very careful with that, because people can go down a road and become delusional and really, really suffer more if they are not ready for certain things. So I warn you, do not do something that you don't know what you're doing. Rinpoche, kon de tama napo tonkan dan ara tonkan ropa chegadu, dene kon gomja chegadu. Dene konso nampa yo mari chikshena, kashe chikshena nampa yin. Yine the kashe chik the nampa yo mare, then gom gari pembodu. Same thing. So the best thing you can do is have them focus on the breath. Just to try to focus on the breath and get their minds to harness in a little bit. And if you look at liberation in the palm of your hand, you'll find an amazing way in order to do it, which would actually set a foundation for them in their future lives to be able to do highest yoga tantra practices. I know that sounds really wild, but it's a fact. The breathing in and out, and what you do is you count on the exhale 1. And as soon as you have anything in your mind move away from the counting, you start over. So then you can see if you're making progress or not. Because Pabunka Rinpoche said most people can't remember the Om Mani part when they get to Pemi Hum. And one other thing about meditation, I realized when I was on my way back really fast from the supermarket, that all it is familiarization. When we look at a diet, for instance, Rinpoche can't have salt anymore. We were talking, he and I used to eat more salt than anyone on the face of the earth. We'd pour it in his tea like sugar. He loves salt. Tibetans love butter salt tea. But now, if I did that, it would taste so salty, he wouldn't be able to drink it. But before, that was normal. That's what meditation is. We become more and more familiar with something different, and it changes us. Changes the way we think and the way we experience things, because we became familiar with it. He became familiar with not eating salt, or just did that so I could learn that. He doesn't need to worry about all of those, things when you're at a higher level, when people are taking care of you, because we're going to keep the salt away from him. But now I can tell when something's salty, it's salty for him. And it's just an interesting analysis of when someone's on a diet, when you are not addicted, you stop for a day, for 2 days, for 3 days, and it starts to become not your norm. When all you could do is think about it, Now you, what is it? I couldn't imagine living with it or without or whatever. All you could do is think about it. Now you don't think about it. And you think about something else. And all you can do is think about that. That's what meditation is. It's not up on top of a mountain with angels flying around us. It's whether or not you can change your mind one step at a time. And then when you exhale, have them think about all sentient beings having the greatest form of bliss and happiness. And that would be a form of love meditation. If you could imagine when they exhale that air, that you're sending them love, and that they had all the forms of happiness. And then if you imagine when you inhale that you're taking on the suffering of all sentient beings, then you're meditating upon compassion. So if you're exhaling and imagining the air is bringing all sentient beings happiness and the causes of happiness, you're sending them love, and then you're taking on their suffering, you're meditating on compassion. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Okay, I want to see if there's questions on here. Sorry, Rinpoche. Have you signed in from another? Messenger is now inactive. Cancel? Does it need Messenger?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't know what Messenger is. That's the good news. Okay, questions and answer. There are none, I don't think. No questions. I wonder, oh. Let's see, participants. Hey, Alessandra, Brian, John, Chris, Lich, Lynn, Priscilla, and Ted. Thank you for coming. Anyone else? No more questions? Thank you so much, everybody, for your support of Rinpoche and the center, and for allowing the Dharma to flourish again at the Chenrezig Tibetan Buddhist Center. Thank you, Ted, for allowing this to happen. So many years, Ted took care of Rinpoche, made sure every medical need was taken care of, watched him day and night, slept in the hospitals when he was in the hospital. And I just want to say thank you, Ted, for all of that you did. It did not go unnoticed. And thank you, Brian, also for all the medicine that you sent Rinpoche. He talks about it all the time. Please come visit. And let's conclude with some dedication and stuff like that. Less so.
Quality tarimas, tarasayadal quality in the way was. Tuta Rai Jijitu, Tutaral, and Jibagal tree in the way was. Turi no knowledges, Torasayad Madela, Nasal trail in the way was.
Lesser. Let's go.
It's okay. It's okay. Is your health okay? Good?
Very good, okay.
It's okay. I bought you daikon radish. Daikon radish in the bag over there, the blue bag.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Jeff, okay?
Yeah, we
For you.
What is your name?
I'm Daniel.
Dan.
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 You have it, right? There it is. Okay. I had a whole text on the etymology of the Tara mantra, and he just broke it down, and I just want to get it. My phone's too hot. Can I have a phone that works? Just give me one moment. It's important enough to do this. This is it. So now at this time, we have a large amount of problem in the world. We have this COVID-19 disease, and people are suffering in large amounts. So one thing that we can do to be of benefit to ourselves and others is to recite the mantra of Tara, Om Tare Tu Re Soha. We can recite it ourselves and we could tell it to others. And the mantra of Tara, when we break it down, we see it's Om Tare Tu Re Soha. The Om is kind of a summary of Om Ahum, which is the body, speech, and mind. So the Om is said to be like the head of the mantra, they call it sometimes. That's why they put Om at the front of the Heart Sutra, the Om Gate, because they say it's like a head, it's like the beginning of it. It's the body, speech, and mind. It's the blessing. The Tare refers to liberator from the Om Tare Dondagare. So then first Tare liberates from cyclic existence. Om Tare. Two Tare counteracts the 8 dangers. They are 8 specific inner afflictions that correspond with 8 dangers. So we can look at what those are. We can study into that. So the first Tare liberates us from samsara by removing the afflictive obscurations, which are the afflictions, they're seeds in the karma that cause rebirth. 2 Tare, the 8 dangers. Then 2 Re, Rinpoche. 2 Re has the ability to free us from disease. Hold on one second. So the word Tara itself means liberator. So just one second. Let me make sure I got everything. So Om Ahum Tare Korwala the 2 Re Tutare. So fear. So tutare is, jipa is fear. So the liberator from fear. So the liberator from cyclic existence, the liberator from fear, ture. And freedom from illness, freedom from sickness. So within that, there's more commentary, but freedom from samsara, I already forgot, freedom from fear and freedom from sickness. And then soha means thus it is, or may this come about, or all come about, or may it be this. So om ahom, freedom from samsara, freedom from fear, freedom from sickness, may it be done, may this be done. So if we can recite that, it will be beneficial. I apologize for running in. My brain is like not always working great. And I want to make sure when he says something important, like the etymology of Tara's mantra, that I just make sure that I get it right. And then, you know, anything that I say about it is correct. So, yeah. Concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer. Of course, the book that I have right like there, I couldn't find, it has it all, just on the first page. What they call that when you're in Drepung is leaving your brain in your box of books at home. When you're in the debate courtyard, you're like, oh, I know it says it in this book. And they're like, oh, well, your brain must be in your book and your house because you didn't bring it with you to debate today. So that's always a fun thing to hear. No, I know it's in this thing. I was in the Maklod Ganj market and there was some Drepung monks just totally tearing into me because, I don't know, I started a conversation that I did not know enough about. And it went awry really quickly. Okay, so concluding mandala offering and dedication prayer, all the way through in English. Fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I've collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, in particular the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In the heavenly realm of Tibet, surrounded by a chain of snow mountains, the source of all happiness and help for beings is Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig in person. May his life be secure for hundreds of kalpas. I pray for the long life of the precious Khensur Wandak, upholder of scriptural and realizational doctrines, the spiritual friend who trained extensively in the 5 great philosophical texts with exceptional wisdom and perseverance. Suji Rimchi Gutsi Shapi Denoma. So I think we're supposed to have a board meeting now. I'm not really sure. I've got to look into that. Yeah, the 8 dangers or the 8 fears are what the Tutari counteracts. We've got to find out if we're doing a board meeting on Zoom. And if that's the case, everyone's just going to have to leave. We'll have to like pause. Does Ted come on? Can he come up, pop up? Let me call him. Let's find out.
Did you end?
Yeah, we can always start it back up, right? He was saying we were going to just stay on Zoom. We can't do that because then everyone can. Okay.
End.
Okay.
Is it possible to do offerings?
Yes, we're going to do offerings. Let me just end Zoom.
Yeah. Just the teaching and the teaching. And then
How do I do that? I know.
there's a red button.
Leave.
Yes.
Leave webinar.